In this Augmentation Evoker guide, I'm going to be showing everything you need to know in a beginner-friendly manner. First things first, if you like my UI, you see it's made of ElvUI details and Voodoo and a few others. You can get this all on my Patreon. This is going to be fine for Mythic Plus and also raiding. I'm just going to turn on some action bars. The way it's going to go is the left-hand side is your top priority. The right-hand side is your bottom priority. I am going to go through talents and the important ones and how it all forms together, but first let's actually learn the spells and the order we are doing them in. We are augmentation, meaning we're a DPS player, we're a healer, we're a tank. Well, we're not a tank, but we're augmenting the rest of the group is what I'm saying. Your number one top priority is going to be prescience. Grant an ally the gift of foresight, increasing their critical strike chance and occasionally copying their damage and healing at 15% power. It will affect the nearest ally within 25 yards, preferring damage dealer if you do not have an ally targeted. What you can do is target your best DPS in a raid setting. Doesn't matter as much in Mythic Plus because there's only 5 of you, but in a raid setting, ideally you would probably go with your best DPS for this. But if you are a super duper beginner, then just let it choose for you. It's entirely up to you. There are 2 charges of it. So maintain that on your favorite DPS. And then we have blistering scales. This one is for the tank. You're going to maintain that at all times on the tank. As you can see, I get these scales around me. Protect an ally with 15 explosive dragon scales, increasing their armor by 20% of your own armor. Melee attacks against the target cause a scale to explode, dealing damage to enemies near them. So you can only have it on one person at a time. Make sure you keep that up on the tank. After that, we're going to be casting Ebon Might on cooldown. Increase your 4 nearest allies' primary stat by 5% of your own and cause you to deal more damage. It can only affect 4 allies at once and doesn't affect tanks or healers. Some of your other abilities that we'll be talking about, namely Eruption, Breath of Eons, are actually going to extend Ebon Might. So your Eruption here and your Breath of Eons here, these are actually going to extend Ebon Might. I'm just going to hover over Eruption quickly because I want to talk about something else, and that is your main resource as a preservation. No, wait, what are we doing? Augmentation Evoker, and that is Essence. So you can see here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Essence. When I use Eruption, I am going to spend those Essence. That is our main resource, and they will slowly regenerate. I just wanted to go over that quickly before we move on. So next one is we have Tip the Scales. I'm actually going to skip Tip the Sails for a second and go on to Fire Breath. And that is because Fire Breath is one of our Empower spells. What you can see on the tooltip here is it says 1, 2, and 3. The longer you hold it down, the more it is actually going to do. It's going to do, number 1 at number 1, number 2 at number 2. So this is going to do a load of fire damage to everyone in front of us and increase the duration of Ebon Might. So if I click it and hold it down, can you see it's going 1, 2, and rank 3? And you release at the rank you want. As an Augmentation Evoker, we will be releasing at the maximum rank of 3. What happens when we press Tip the Scales is that your next empowered spell, which is Fire Breath, will cast at the maximum rank and it'll be instant. So you won't have to hold it down, it'll just instantly do it at the max rank. Another one we have is Upheaval. If you used it with Upheaval, then that would go at the max rank. So rather than holding it down to get to 3, I could do Tip the Scales and then immediately Fire Breath, and that has actually done Fire Breath at rank 3 instantly. So use Tip the Scales whenever it's on off cooldown and use it with Fire Breath. After that, we have Breath of Eons. Taking a deep breath and fly to the targeted location, spewing molten cinders, dealing damage to enemies in your path. It also increases the duration of Ebon Might effects, so you could just fly forward, etc. with that, and fly around, dealing loads of damage, and that is on a 2-minute cooldown. Then we get to Eruption. Cause a violent eruption beneath an enemy's feet, dealing damage split between them and all nearby enemies. And that is how we're spending our essence here. It also increases the duration of your Ebon Might here by a second. Sorry. So our essence, how do we spend it? Well, that is going to be with Eruption. We also have Upheaval that we're going to use on cooldown as a pretty low priority. The 3 different ranks of this is how big of a radius it is. Do it at rank 1 unless you need a huge radius. So you can see rank 1, rank 2, and rank 3 does it in a huge radius. So If you only need a 3-yard radius and you're in melee range, then obviously you only use it at rank 1. If your enemy's within the nearest 6 yards, do it at rank 2, etc. As a filler, we use Living Flame. Send a flickering flame towards your target, dealing damage or healing. And then if you are moving, we can use Azure Strike, as this will go onto 2 enemies, and we can use it on the move, so it's instant. So this is a filler when you're on the move, so that you're casting something. And Living Flame is your filler if you're not casting something. Sorry, if you're not moving. So just to go through that again, keep Prescience up on your favourite DPS at all time. Keep Blistering Scales up on the tank. Keep Ebb and Might up at all times. Use Tip the Scales with your Fire Breath, and always use Fire Breath at maximum rank. Use Breath of Eons on cooldown. Use Eruption to spend your Essence here. Upheaval, use on cooldown at rank 1 unless you need the space. Any procs you get, so like on your Eruption or Living Flames, use them. You're pretty much using them at the same point. Your Eruption will sometimes be free because of something here called Essence Burst. Your Living Flame has a chance, and your Azure Strike has a chance to make your next Eruption cost no Essence. So when you use Living Flame, it actually has a chance, here we go, to get an Essence Burst. That's what this is here, this thing you can see, to make your Eruption basically not cost any essence. One other thing to note is with your Living Flame, we have a talent over here called Leaping Flames. Fire Breath causes your next Living Flame to strike an additional target power level. So if we use it at rank 3, then it's going to get 3 buffs of that. And you can see here, Leaping Flames, your next Living Flame will strike 3 additional targets. We also sometimes get this buff here, Burnout, where next Living Flames cast time is completely reduced and it will be instant. You compare these together and it works really, really well. And that is literally the rotation you're doing as a Augmentation Evoker. You can use this in Raiding and Mythic Plus. It just depends on the usage. Prescience, you could just use it. You don't need to retarget people in Mythic Plus. Bit different in Raiding because obviously there is, you're going to want to target specific people who could do the DPS at the time. Choosing which tank to use Blistering Scales on. Do you need a radius for upheaval? In Mythic Plus you might, because there could be a large amount of enemies near you, etc, etc. The important talents then that we need to look at is that Essence Burst stacks up to 2 times with Essence Attunements. That's good to know. Fatal attacks are diverted into a nearby timeline, preventing the damage and your death in this one. The release of Temporal Energy restores health to you and nearby allies. So that can only happen every 6 minutes, but it is a get out of jail free card for death. Upheaval has a 60% chance to give you Essence Burst here. And Consuming Essence Burst grants you some intellect as well that can stack. So actually using that free attack will actually make you even stronger. It also has a 20% chance to not even consume the Essence Burst, meaning you can get even more Essence Bursts immediately. There is also Motes of Possibility. Eruption has a chance to form a note of diverted essence near you. Allies who come into contact with that will gain a random buff. So not so much for you, but for your allies, but if they run into it, they will get that. Then, looking at the hero talents, we've got Mass Eruption, Empower Spells, cause your next eruption to strike up to 3 targets, etc. The other keystone talent, Maneuverability, Breath of Eons can now be steered in your desired direction. Apart from that, we just have some utilities that I want to talk through in our spellbook. So, going through them, we've got Blessing of the Bronze. You're going to have this up at all times on your allies, reducing the cooldown of major movement abilities for everyone. Cauterizing Flame on a minute cooldown will actually remove bleed, poison, curse, and disease effects and heal them, which is, in my opinion, the best one of these in the game. Fury of the Aspects is Bloodlust, you do have it. Expunge on only an 8-second cooldown will just remove any poison effects. You can use Emerald Blossom to help out with a little bit of healing. Obsidian Scales is a great single defensive for yourself. Pressing Roar is great. It's actually going to increase the duration of crowd control effects that affect your enemies. And then we have Quell, which is on a 40-second cooldown. This is your Interrupt, really great for Mythic Plus here, interrupting your enemy spellcasting. Rescue is also good, where you swoop to an ally and basically take them to a targeted location, which is obviously going to be a safe location. There's also Source of Magic, where you can redirect your excess magic to a friendly healer for an hour. When you cast an empowerment spell, that healer will get some mana. So that's another great way that we can help out our healer and should be on one of your best healers at all times. We also do have Time Spiral, where allowing you and your allies within 40 yards to cast their major movement ability once in the next 10 seconds, even if it is on cooldown, which is amazing as well. And those are the utilities that I wanted to go through with you. Talent builds, of course, are in the description, as is Patreon, etc. if you'd like to support the channel or just get my UI and other bits and bobs on there. But either way, thank you for watching, and that is how you play Augmentation Evoker in Season 2.